Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Please continue to pray for me. You can pray to the God of dislikes by singing along, gesturing at your screen, and leaving a dislike on this video. Let's do it a couple of times while I invite a few people to this live stream. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. One more time. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. One thing I will never forget in 2024, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record to many of my viewers, but I force myself to recite this story at least once a week because I don't want to get complacent about it. It's one of those stories that's easy to forget about when you get too much time removed from the story. It was painful, but it's kind of like childbirth, right? The longer you get away from it, you think I can have another child, right? So it's important that I recite the story over and over and over again, not necessarily on YouTube, but even just to myself. And those of you who have watched me over the last few months will know this story by heart, probably. But it was July of 2024. And actually, this time I'm going to back up a little bit and tell the story from before when it had happened. I was teaching at Glendale Community College, and I was getting really good reviews. I had just applied to teach at Central Arizona College at that time, and I was having good conversation with the recruiters and everybody. I was on top of the world. I was making art. I had an art show in June of 2024 where I made $2,000. I was on top of the world. I had just started Mondrian Art Square projects. I had uh, the only thing that I wasn't doing very well with was networking with people. Other than that, I was on top of the world. Good reviews at work, art projects, accumulating a lot of precious metals and bismuth and silver and mining stocks as well. And so I was on top of the world. And then I got COVID-19. I don't know where I got it. Right. Well, I work at a school, so it's not terribly surprising or anything like that. But I got a really bad case of COVID-19. I live alone in a micro studio apartment, and I don't have a significant other. I don't even have all that many friends. Give you an idea of how few friends I have. When I first moved to Phoenix, I learned I couldn't put the hotel address as my address on my driver's license. And the person at the DMV asked me if I had any friends I could use, and it just really hurt because I didn't. And it's one thing to not be able to renew my driver's license. It's another to be reminded that you have nobody to help you with this kind of stuff. And I got very upset at the guy working behind the counter at the DMV. It was not really his fault, but it's one of those situations you don't want to be reminded about it. Eventually, I got a place and switched over my driver's license, and everything's good there now. But anyways, I got COVID-19. It's 115 degrees, and I'm all alone. And just as I start to recover, I go out to my favorite grocery store to pick up some comfort foods. I'm dehydrated, I'm disoriented. I don't even remember how I drove to the grocery store. I could have passed for somebody who was intoxicated. I'm lucky I didn't get pulled over for being suspected of driving while intoxicated, right? I wonder if there's if you can get a DUI for driving while having COVID-19 or some other medical issue, right? I'm sure you could probably. But somehow I made it to the store. And so I got 5 or so bananas. There was nowhere to sit down to eat it, though. And I ended up sitting down on this mobility scooter at the front of the store. And the store security gave me heck about it. He came over. He didn't ask me how I was doing. He didn't say hello. He didn't say good morning or anything. He just asked me to leave the store. Had he said any other thing, I probably could have explained myself, right? But all he did was ask me to leave the store. And you know what? I've learned the hard way, not only from that experience, but from another experience a few nights ago. People are quick to ask people to leave stores, homes, situations. They're not. People don't like to find out more about what's going on, and so I I, re- I really despise that. And I I was very sick, so I was upset, but I was so sick I couldn't argue with him. All I said was, "I'll make it quick." I'm just recovering from COVID-19. When he heard the words COVID-19, he quickly backed down, and he was like, "Oh," and yeah, but he only ran because of his own personal safety. Actually, I was already negative for the virus. I only had lingering symptoms, that's all. But he heard COVID-19 and he ran. Had I told him that, imagine that it were something else, right? Imagine I had just come back from chemotherapy, had an asthma attack, uh, 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 allergy kind of issues. Oh, he could care less about that. He could care less that I go out when it's 120 degrees and get a heat wave, a heat stroke, right? Imagine I were sitting there because of heat related. He could care less about that, right? He only cared because he might catch something, right? Had I had anything else that wasn't contagious, right? And so it's very upsetting. And you got to remember, just days before that, I was on top of the world. And it just goes to show how we all skate on thin ice that we could fall through at any moment, right? You have to wonder, even somebody who I was talking to a friend about this last night, and he was telling me how I need to have a financial buffer and all that. I don't know how that would have helped me in this situation. I didn't lose my job over this. I didn't. The only thing that might have helped is that I may have been able to order a delivery instead of driving out there, right? But I guess the other way it could have helped is that I could have had a better living situation, right? But in the main, I don't think it would have helped in terms of my the perception of the people there. I guess I could have had better clothing to wear, and I could have a haircut more often, right? Right now, I'm only cutting my hair twice a decade, if you could believe it. I guess that's the only way that having that money might have helped. I don't think it would have been a big help, though. But I do want to build up some better networks so that when those things happen, hey, could you mind bringing over some bananas or whatever, right? And that might have been able to help me, right? That's the only thing that might have helped. Or right, if I had a significant other, that might have been. Although, if I had a significant other, maybe both of us would have gotten COVID-19. So who knows if that would have actually done any good in that case, right? Anyway, the other thing I hope to do is to speak up more about this situation, get our society to be more collectivist in our ways, right? I really despise how when you get anything wrong, you're on your own. I really despise that because anybody can get anything wrong. I don't need to tell you guys that anybody can catch COVID-19, no matter how careful you are today, right? How bad is the COVID-19 situation right now? I wonder how many cases there are in the United States. COVID-19 cases 2024. Um, data tracker. I miss back when Google used to show you a chart of how many cases there are. So they're ticking up again. Test positivity is 5.6%. Emergency department visits 0.7% are diagnosed as having COVID-19, but it's going up. 1.6 per 100,000 population hospitalization. 1.1% of all deaths in the US are due to COVID-19. How high has it been? I wonder. Uh, they don't like showing those charts anymore. You used to have a chart you could see. But anyways, back to the story. I don't need to tell you guys that anybody can have something go wrong. That's not their fault without warning, right? COVID-19, any other kind of medical problem, lose your job, break up. a death in the family. And unfortunately, a lot of people are only one such event from total chaos in their lives, right? And I hope to tell my story more so that encourage people to be more collectivists so that we're not so close to the edge all the time, right? Even my friend who was very nice to let me crash here tonight, he probably doesn't realize how close he is to that edge either, right? He's been very fortunate. Yesterday, as I was talking to him, he kept blaming me for not having a cushion, not networking with people, and he probably doesn't realize how close he is, right? When he gets something wrong, right, it'll be my turn to laugh, right? And but I want to make some waves. I want Americans to think more. The next time, I don't know how many of my viewers work with security or because the guy I interacted was a security guard. The next time you think somebody is trespassing and you ask them to leave, don't start with leave. Start with how's your day, what's going on, and listen first, right? You can always ask somebody to leave later, right? If it's not an emergency, if it's just somebody who appears to be squatting, right? Whether it be at your place of business or, I don't know where you work, right? At a school, at a restaurant, at a grocery store, or at anywhere, right? Uh, Listen first, and you can always ask somebody to leave, but later, right? Uh, but listen first, right? And you might realize that it's better to for everybody involved, right? Not just for the person who is presumably trespassing, but for the greater good of everything else, right? And now, on the flip side of the equation, before you run into a dire situation where you get COVID-19 and have nowhere to eat, when you go to the store, make sure to greet everybody you see, right? The cashier, the security guard, the police officer. When you see a police officer, I teach at Central Arizona College. We have cops on campus. Make sure you say hello to those people and make sure you talk about the weather or the sports or anything that's appropriate to talk about. Build good rapport so that the next time you get COVID-19 on campus and you can't walk out of there, you'll have a better chance of doing what you need to do, right? But more importantly, we need to be more in it together, right? What happened to? I thought at the beginning of the pandemic we were all in this together, right? What happened to that, right? Anyway, I hope by the end of 2025 we'll really all be in this together and help each other out. And what really hurts is that uh, it won't be called COVID-19. No, well, we should be in this together, not just over COVID-19, right? We should be in it together for the good things too, right? For Trump being reelected, for Bitcoin going to 100,000, for bismuth going to $100,000 an ounce eventually. We're all in this together, right? For anything else, right? When we finally have private self-driving cars, right, in our driveways, let's be in it together, right? Actually, we really will be in it together because the cars will have to communicate with one another at that point, right? When we finally see, my dream is that one day I can just go out to my driveway and have my own personal spaceship and I could go anywhere in the world in 20 minutes or less, right? Because then a lot of opportunities will open up, right? I can look for jobs in other places around the world. I could date people from different places around the world. I won't be limited, right? I can't wait for that. It doesn't even have to be able to go to another planet, right? Even just anywhere on Earth in 20 minutes, I'll be pleased. And it's in my driveway. And let's say a trip costs like $10 in today's money, right? On average, right? Oh, I'll be pleased, right? My opportunities will open up so much, right? And when that happens, I want all of us to be in it together, right? I don't want us to be in conflict about where to go and have road space rage when we drive our spaceships, right? Uh, uh, you get the idea, right? But all right. So I don't know how many people who watch my videos are in some kind of a job where you have some authority on things, but please use your authority responsibly, right? I'm not saying to give it up, but use it responsibly and wisely and in a collectivist way, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Shit Show. Bum 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 bum.